What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I have my good friends here, fellow colleagues in the film industry, Eric Tomj and Alex Pashalis. How are you guys?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Alex is new to the podcast. Please welcome him. He has a lot of stories to share about his journey as an actor and really the experiences he's gone through as a creative, something we always love to talk about. So I'll just get right into it. Eric, Tomj, Alex, you guys have collaborated on not one, but two projects, Man vs. Food and Long, Long Time. And Eric has spoke highly about you as an actor and praised your work and, basically said you're very easy to work with. And you guys have been friends before these projects, correct?
Yeah.
How did you guys,
long time.
How did you guys connect? Was it through film or just?
It was, I guess it was kind of like through film. Also like we went to the same school and stuff like that. So like high school, and we met through actually like mutual friends. So this one kid was like, hey, do you know Eric? He does like film stuff. And I was like, no, I don't know him. And we kind of like just got into it like through that.
Oh, nice. And
yeah.
So getting into film and exploring that kind of pathway as a career, because I'm in the field and I'm always curious how people end up pursuing such an audacious path. How did you and what inspired you about acting?
I guess like what inspired me about acting is kind of like the ability to create a character and to put yourself in different situations that you wouldn't actually be in is kind of like what drew me into it. I think like one of the earliest ways I guess I can say that I wanted to be an actor was like when I was a kid. A lot of the times it was like through Disney channels. Like I wanted to be a kid on Disney Channel and things like that. And I thought it was really funny that there was some kids doing out of this like funny putting themselves in funny situations. I thought it was kind of like at one point I thought it was real. Like I thought like the TV shows are real. I was like, oh, I want to go to the hotel and meet Zach and Cody. And
I love that.
So I guess that's, and then when I found out it was like they're acting and things like that, I kind of like was drawn to it, I guess.
Yeah, so it definitely inspired you in a way, right? With the Disney Channel and that kind of whimsical, innocent element to it.
Exactly.
I don't know about you guys. I can't even look back. I can't watch the shows the same way because
no.
See, you know what I mean? Like they're just way too innocent and sometimes way too naive that you see the jokes coming a mile away and you predict the stories, the arcs of the characters.
I find that like it's a little cringy sometimes, like with like some of the jokes. You're like, oh my god, why is this funny? It's literally not that funny.
It's actually not that funny. And I think as being that young, we're just laughing more at, like you said,
exactly.
just being immersed in that experience and seeing these characters and just the fact that they were at their height of the game, like Dylan and Cole Sprouse, like they were the Justin Biebers. Everyone was talking about them. Like everyone wanted to be them. I remember that. I remember that era, that phase. What's your take on this, Eric? Were you a big Disney Channel fan?
Not as much. No, I mean, I love Disney, but I always sort of got into, for me when I was younger, it was always about like movies. And it was, I would always get like, but I would be like, I'd like latch onto one movie in specific and I would get like really attached to it for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
So, it would be like Peter Pan for a long time. And I was like obsessed with it for so long. And I would just rewatch it and watch all the behind the scenes. And I was like, I loved every second of it. And then I'd move on to like Star Wars or something else, like not as much, but I love that the TV stuff's great too. I think those shows are super cool because they build like, even though they're cringy, they do such an interesting job of building like a world for the characters. It's like good world building on those shows, right?
Well,
and
one thing,
like, great.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, dude. You're good.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention the world building is there, but I also wanted to mention with the animation, the impression I get when I watch the Disney Channel or just any shows, YTV, they're not the same like they used to. Like they really went all out with the story, and they made you buy the product, right? They didn't just kind of throw it in your face like with half-ass commercials. Like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, like all those animation shows, and even on the Disney Channel, like the Weekenders. I don't know why no one talks about that show. That show was.
I wish they would put that. I wish they would put that on Disney Plus. That's one show that I was. That's one show that I want. That's one. I haven't seen that show in a long time. They just said that now and just like unlocked like a memory. Oh man, that's a.
What about Jake the Dragon? Remember Jake the Dragon?
was that Jake Long,
Jake
Dragon
Long, yeah,
Warrior or something?
Jake
They
Long, the
just
dragon or
they just
something.
put they just put that on like recently. I was
Oh, they
gonna check it
did.
out, but like
Okay.
yeah, that one's on now. Yeah, they got a lot of new things on Disney Plus now, but gotta check that Star thing. I like that. The new thing, the new branch.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been doing a whole
I
Alien
love
binge. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah,
yeah.
Alien. Yeah, I love that they put those new like R-rated movies on there.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's something my buddy joked around and said, because I'm like, oh, they had to do it because they're competing. They're like, they don't really have to do anything because they're Disney. And I'm like, okay, yeah,
Exactly.
you have a point. But it would go really old because at the end of the day, there's only so much nostalgia you can consume. At the end, you want to see content that
Yeah.
20th Century Fox owns, right? And as proven with, again, the Alien franchise. And I can go on a rant about that experience, but we'll save that for another time.
Dude, Alien's
um,
a vibe.
yeah,
Alien is
Aliens
a huge
Vibe.
vibe.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
man.
I
Dude,
watched it
first,
recently.
Alex and I, we work with this AD on both these projects. Jan,
Nice.
his name's Jan Kaminsky, and anytime you meet Jan, the first question he always asks you is he goes, "Have you seen Alien?"
Oh yeah, that's
It's
that.
like
Like
a
if you
test.
don't, and if you've never seen
Yeah.
it, it's like don't talk to
Yeah.
me. When I ask for a coffee, you get it.
It's basically the vibe, bro. Basically
Yeah.
the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's well, I will make a note on it. I heard things about Prometheus and Alien Covenant, right? It's one of those movies you just kind of watch bits and pieces, scenes, or like hear other people talking about. But I actually had to sit myself down and watch them, and you know, I thought they were pretty well done. I'm looking forward to it being its own separate kind of trilogy or whatever they're going for. But the last note I'll make about the Alien franchise, you guys probably have a different opinion, is it went completely downhill after Alien
Yeah.
3. I Alien 3 I didn't mind actually. Like I watched it for a second time and I was actually surprised it was a David Fincher movie. But it just goes to show
Right.
you, how much you can progress. But he did admit, I think, in interviews, like the studio was way too involved. But yeah, I think we can all agree on that based on everyone's reaction.
Well, I haven't really seen the third one. I've heard it's not like that.
Oh, you
That
just
amazing.
know. So how do you know the franchise derails? How do you know it just collapses?
Well, I like to read a lot of like the spoilers and things like that, and like
Okay,
reviews
okay.
and things. And so like Eric knows, like Eric's like always with like when new movies come out, he's like, dude, did you read the spoiler? I hope you didn't read the spoiler. I was
Right.
like, well, yes, I did. But Alien, one thing I find about Alien
Mhm.
and like Alien, the first one and the second one, it's like, well, the first one is like I find it like really slow. I like the story and everything about it, but I feel like it's really slow. Like the build up until like the end is like really like it's like, oh, we got to wait a whole 2 hours to finally see what happens at the end. But I think same thing with the second one too. It's got there's more action in the second one for sure, but
Yeah,
but I
the
find that
second
it's
one
slow.
wasn't bad. The second one was memorable for me, and it provided more action, and there was a horror
Yeah.
element. The first one, yeah, again, it's just iconic, classic. Just the intelligence behind it too, like the filmmaking, right? The skill you have to pull that off,
The
and
special effects.
the Ridley Scott, yeah, that was his breakthrough,
Yeah.
just put him on the map, right?
Yeah.
So, having said that, speaking of that amazing content, I'd like to know more about your content that you guys created and collaborated on. So, I know that, again, I mentioned there was Man vs. Food and there's Long Long Night. So, give us some background to Man vs. Food. I'll ask Alex on this. What's the story behind Man vs. Food?
So Man vs. Food is basically a guy who is trying to like get into shape, and so he's really trying hard to when he goes out to dinner wants to order the clean meals, no spaghetti, like no carbs. He wants to keep it like chicken and broccoli type situation, right?
Right.
And I think he's out to dinner, and I guess it's his girlfriend or his I would say, yeah, I guess his girlfriend who's sitting in front of him, and she orders some spaghetti, some like nice carbs, and this guy has been laying off the carbs for such a long time. He's really trying to get that six pack, and so the waiter comes around. Girlfriend's in like the washroom, or she's not there at the table. Waiter
Right.
comes around, gives him the puts the spaghetti right in front of him, and this guy just can't resist. He jumps on the table and just starts going crazy and stuffs his face with all this pasta sauce all over the place and spaghetti, and at the end of the day he fails his what do you call it, his fitness goal. He cracks. That's it.
Wow.
The
He
whole
goes under the
film is like
pressure.
the temptation.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
the temptation of whether or not he's sitting right in front of him and whether or not he can hold off or not, and it's about trying
The
to build
question of
tension.
discipline. Yeah, the question of discipline. And it's so relatable
Exactly.
too, because Eric knows my story about how we were kind of both discussing each other's health regimens during the lockdowns. And Eric was doing the opposite of what I was doing. He was bulking up. I was trying to slim down. And we were both just explaining the challenges we've experienced. I've slipped many times since that conversation, but it's amazing what we do just to get the right body. And it's amazing how fragile the
Exactly.
human body is, really. Like
Yeah.
you can eat like bread all week and gain that weight you just lost back.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
right. So, and yeah, being Italian, I can, yeah, just only imagine. I just had pasta for dinner, and it's like that's just how it is. We just eat it and enjoy it and move on. Are you Italian, Alex? What
No,
background are you?
I'm Greek. I'm
Oh, you're
Greek. I'm
Greek.
Greek. So
Okay,
I
so
guess like
you
the
similar.
same thing. A lot of eating.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, man. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of eating, a lot of generous portions, and
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, and the food is exceptional. So
Yeah.
Eric, I
It's
want
like
I want to go into long time. You're writer director on this, and you spoke about it on the last podcast. You're very proud of this project, and just seeing the photo stills on IMDb, I'm anticipating this project. I'm very excited to see it as well. I feel like there was a lot of effort put into this. Can you discuss basically the story of this long time?
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to talk about the making or more of the
Just to
story of
just
the
to give
actual?
a background story, so the audience knows what the story is about, and then we'll dive into the experience and things like that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So long time. Like I said, follows a character named Vince who sort of is returning home from the war, back to his hometown, and his friends and family sort of host a celebration to celebrate the return of all the soldiers who are coming back at the end of the war, right? But Vince is sort of uh, traumatized, and there's all sorts of things with his character, and it's sort of about him trying to readapt to life when he returns home, and it sort of all takes place within the sphere of this one night at this big event that the town holds to celebrate the return of all the soldiers. And yeah, that's where the story begins, my friend.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so no spoilers on that. We're just gonna have to wait and watch the film, but
No
the story is
spoilers.
incredible. I love period pieces. I think that's the inspiration for why you made it. I got like Captain America vibes. You and I joked
Captain,
around
a
about
little
that,
bit of
right?
Captain America.
Got the Chris
Yeah,
Evans
for sure.
vibes, right?
A little
And
bit.
yeah, it's I think what stuck out to me the most is the color grade. It just captures you, right? Credit to the
Yeah.
cinematography, whoever's editing. Just great job on that. So very excited for that. Very excited to watch Man versus Food as well. Um, these are both projects that I'd like to know again your experiences on and see what came out of it for you guys. So back to Eric, I'll ask you, how was your experience directing Alex in this performance
It
in
was
Man
great.
versus Food and Long Time?
Well, it was really so. They were two very different projects, but it was really interesting because we'll start with Man versus Food. So we did Man versus Food before Long Time, but it was great because I'm in Long Time as an actor, but
Mhm.
I'm not in Man versus Food as an actor. So Man versus Food was a lot of fun because Man versus Food, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of visual acting and expression because it's really about the temptation of what's happening in that environment, about him and the foods, you know. So that was a really interesting challenge. There was other actors in that film, and one of them, Chris Ormrod, who's also in Long Time, but they were all playing sort of B characters, and the primary thing was sort of Alex's character, sort of like non-verbally acting through this entire movie. So that was an incredible challenge to direct him in a sense because there wasn't a lot of dialogue to sort of give context for what was happening. It really had to come sort of through the visual context with his acting, right?
Facial expressions.
A lot, yeah, a lot of facial
A lot of
expressions, and that
subtleties.
was that was the that was the fun of that performance. But
Hmm.
it's a totally different animal from long time, because long time is like 13 minutes of dialogue, like that film is conversation, right? And so when Alex plays a character named Cliff in long time, who is one of the soldiers who comes back with the character that I play, Vince, and is at that party the night that all goes down. When I wrote the character Cliff, I knew it had to be Alex. I wrote it for him in mind, and it's sort of it's a very specific part. There's a very sort of niche angle to that character. I don't want to say too much, but him and we have a long dialogue scene in the movie, and it's explosive, and I think it's the best scene of the movie, to be honest with you.
Oh wow, and it's between both of you.
That was incredible. Yeah, I think it's the best scene in the movie. And so it was really fun to sort of like go from something where he says basically nothing, and it's all everything else. It's all the to something where we're just hashing it out, like dialogue wise, right on the screen. Right. And it was total contrast, right? So yeah.
Expanding so on really the you're expanding on the emotions of what the characters have gone through, and you're showing that in your dialogue, right? And that was that scripted, or did you guys have to ad lib it?
Yeah, it was scripted.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot of Man versus Long Time was scripted. Man versus Food was scripted as well, but there was not much dialogue, so there wasn't. It was just a lot of like sort of like just a.
So that explosive moment wasn't like off the like how actors sometimes they'll go off the cuff and they'll like say things like that was a scripted part that you both had to sell like with your emotions.
Yeah, it was. It's an incredibly specific story point in the long time that that character that he plays is like there to sort of articulate something very clearly about my character.
Right.
So it was really important. Like I love to ad lib and to do like that, but
for sure,
his character has a very nuanced and very specific part. So we really had to play it very close to the script for that, and that was part of the challenge of it, because Alex is an incredible ad-lib actor and a comedian, so it's like
that's great.
It's crazy that but it was really interesting.
I'm glad you clarified that, because it's very important, and I'm glad that you mentioned the dialogue was critical in selling a certain piece of the story, because ad lib does work. Wolf of Wall Street, we've seen it in movies where it's like, haha, that was funny, that's amazing, but if it's not accurate to the story, if it doesn't serve the story, and you're just ad-libbing just to ad-lib, or because you feel it's more natural or more comfortable for the actors to do so, you can completely derail the motive of that scene, the spirit of that scene. So I'm glad that you stuck to the script and basically trusted the writing. It's important to have those emotions conveyed. Alex, what was your experience with that explosive scene? Share it with Eric.
So for a long time,
yes.
Overall, it was a really good experience. Like I don't know how to, like I don't want to give away too much of like like I guess I don't know what I can say and what I can't say, because I signed the papers and things like that. So
right.
But it was a really like a really nice scene. Like when you see it, like you'll really see the like the emotion like really come through, and it had to be like at one point the scene is like joyful, and then it kind of takes like a really serious turn, if I can say that, Eric. I don't know, am I allowed to say? Yeah, it goes from joyous to kind of like serious, and like I guess like really quickly. So
all right,
to change the moods was
it was very demanding, right, on an actor especially. And Eric mentioned that you're a comedian as well. I had no idea, and that's amazing. Like I guess what I'm trying to get at is the fact that you can do comedy but also drama. That's not easy to do. Like people don't realize the emotional range. And from what you're describing, that intensity, the seriousness you have to take of this character, it sounds like you have to go to a dark place to channel that energy.
A little bit, yeah. I kind of try to put myself in the I guess like the mindset of a World War II veteran and things like that. I would read a lot about like the history, different types of like shell shock, different type of mental illnesses that they would come home with, and really try to put myself in that. But again, like I had to put myself in that, like on the outside, like the shell of like the outer shell of this character is happy and kind of joyful, but on the inside he's very like he's been through hell and back. So really had to put myself in that dark spot, dark place.
Yeah, no, of course. And that you actually just mentioned something that I wanted to discuss because I think preparation is so key, so critical in bringing the best performance you can. And because you mentioned it, I'll ask you, Alex, how did you how else did you prepare for the role of man versus food? And then I want to know, how did you prepare for a long, long time?
So for Man versus Food, I basically was kind of just, I would say I was almost playing myself in that one, because I guess through when I was doing that one, I was also going through my own type of like fitness journey, I guess you could say. I like before the shoot, I kind of like dropped like 5 pounds. I started like going to the gym about like I guess maybe 3 months before we did it, like just because I had to like doctor said, you got to go to the gym and work out, stay a little healthy. So I kind of was, I guess, playing myself in a different time, I guess you could say. Like I was already trying to get a little more healthy. Then when we did the thing, I could put myself in that kind of mindset, like where I was already at. So not like for that one, not much preparation was like kind of needed to be done. But I guess with long, long time, because I was playing such a complete opposite character, I really had to put myself in and immerse myself into the environment, I guess, as much as I could into World War II history and things like that.
Yeah, the era. And you explained that just earlier, where you would research and just learn more about what World War II was all about and how it affected millions of people and really the world going forward in
Yeah,
the century. And that experience is critical. The authenticity, we always discuss it on this podcast, is so crucial. And from just hearing how you described your preparation, I think it's safe to say that you respect both stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So with Man versus Food, you understood what a character needs to go through, or a real life person, I should say, when they're on a health regimen, and how important
right.
health is to your longevity. And with this long, long time, you have this era that you respect and you're naturally interested in. And I think that that's what makes for a great performance, but also it sells the audience that you're legitimate and you can be trusted with the material.
Right, right.
I wanted to go, sorry?
No, I just think we felt like a huge responsibility too with long, long time.
Okay.
You know, because
How
like when
so?
you're playing like somebody like, well, man versus food, it's something, it's completely sort of like made up and fictional, right? Or
Right, right,
there's no there's there that's it's based on things that happen to real people, but there's no responsibility to have to do something justice, specifically,
yeah.
and in long, long time, Alex is wearing like a real soldier's uniform,
Yeah,
like somebody from the war's
Oh,
uniform
wow.
in that movie.
That's
So like
amazing.
it's just like, you just like, if you're gonna step into that uniform and
Yeah.
go on to that set and have to do that, like you gotta like, there's a responsibility, like you really gotta come prepared and not mess it up. And his character is so, it's such a nuanced and specific thing. He did a great job of describing it, about like, the outer shell is incredibly like, vibrant, and that, but that's sort of hiding the inner shell. That's
Right.
that's hiding, that's what he's like pushing out to hide what's
Concealing, yeah.
happening inside.
He's
Right.
concealing his true self because he's afraid of, yeah, that ridicule or judgment. And that's basic, the basic human condition. No one wants to be judged for any matter. And how vulnerable is a soldier going through that experience? And especially in those times, I'm sure that's something that's explored in the movie, where this is a different era. People are talking about mental health all the time. So I'm getting updates, oh, we're experiencing mental health because of the pandemic, and these are the solutions. But you wind back the clocks a few decades, and no one was talking about mental health, and there was probably not even any treatments. Is that something that you found important to explore, Eric?
Yeah, that was a huge sort of portion of the story. um
Great.
I was really interested in exploring like there's been so many movies exploring the journey of soldiers that like in the war, and
Hmm.
fighting in the war and then going off to war. But I don't know, I haven't seen as many movies about what happens when they tried to come back. It all sort of seems like everything went back to normal, but I don't really think that's the case. And I don't think that's like sort of a gray area where there haven't been a lot of movies made about that sort of like reintegration. Like, how do you come back from the war and be okay with that?
and
you know
reintegrate with society, I guess. Right.
Yeah, Yeah, the one that
Yeah.
comes closest to mind is American Sniper, with Bradley Cooper.
Right.
Yeah.
That's basically, and they did one. Clint Eastwood, master at his craft. They did where basically he's in the war and then he's back, and it's like a cross between. But the performance, credit to the performance of Bradley Cooper. It was really sold on the idea this guy has seen some shit and he's really suffering. Um, and yeah, that's what comes to mind when you explain long, long time is exploring. It's not the war itself. It's, the aftermath, how it affects people. Right. And Eric knows this. I have to always bring up Tarantino, but Reservoir Dogs, same concept, right? It's not about war, but it's not about the bank heist. It's about the characters and how it affected them. Right. You a Tarantino fan, Alex?
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of his films.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Once Upon a Time yet, but
Oh,
I like his movies.
all
Yeah,
right.
that's one I haven't seen. Like I want to see that one, but haven't had the time to check it out. But yeah, no, but I like Tarantino's like work. It's like he's like one of my favorite guys. Gotta say.
I forgot to ask this because I always love hearing about people's inspirations. Who inspired you to become an actor or comedian, Alex?
So I guess for me, like number one would have to be like Robin Williams, because he
Okay.
can really pull off like the funny stuff, and then he can go and really put himself in that dark place. And
Oh yeah.
1 hour photo.
Yep.
1 hour photos are really, like, I watched that recently, but I've seen that a few years ago also, and it was a really great movie to see him go from like playing Mrs. Doubtfire, and then he goes
Yeah.
playing this crazy like psychopath kind of guy. And I guess the second one I would have to say is Harrison Ford. I really like Harrison Ford's
Nice.
style of acting, and yeah, so I guess more serious stuff, Harrison Ford type of thing, and the more funny stuff, I guess, Robin Williams. So yeah.
Yeah, they're both extremely likable actors. I think what sells me for both of them is not only their talent but their charisma, just undeniable. I think that's something a lot of actors today. Um, I could be wrong saying this, but there's a charisma, there's a quality that these actors in the past had that just drew you to the screen. Arnold Schwarzenegger, like he can barely act in some parts, but there's just something fascinating to watch, and I think that boils down to charisma, right? Like Sylvester
Yeah.
Stallone, and Rocky movies. Like I was trying to watch the remake of Predator, and I'm just like, I got to turn this off because Adrian Brody is not as good as Arnold Schwarzenegger, like selling me in an action movie. You know what I mean? Like, amazing actor in his own right, the pianist, right? A great, great actor, but there's certain elements, there's that quality that is a treasure of the past. Is that something you guys both agree on?
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a different world back then
Different
for
time,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
the 70s. And speaking of what's going on with this pandemic and how we're always talking about the future of cinema, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of friends are hoping that it'll be a return to the 70s, like that gritty era where the Brat Pack, Scorsese, George Lucas, they basically didn't know anyone in the film industry and they made movies by themselves and revolutionized an industry that got them back into the studio system. But I guess it's just the circle of life, right? Um,
Right.
but I think we're anticipating that. What do you guys takes? Not to get off topic, what are your takes on that? How it's headed? Are you guys excited?
Hopefully everything picks up sometime soon. Get
Yeah,
back to work and things like that. It'd be fun to go back, because this it's been a long time, and
it has.
you know it's difficult, I guess, to I mean, it's a little difficult to imagine how the world's going to be after and how the industry is going to pick up, but hopefully it comes back full swing once everything kind of clears out.
Yeah, I think it's important that one thing that gives me confidence is connecting with people like you and Eric and just people in your community. I think that's the best we can do in this time, because I think everyone is just trying to figure out their way and find their own path, especially in the film industry, as challenging as it already is. But when things, naturally come together, I think it's important to build your contacts now because you never know if there's a collaboration coming your way or a script in mind. So to any filmmakers struggling out there, build your connections now. And it doesn't have to be someone that's prominent in the industry. It can be a friend on your Instagram. That's how me and Eric connected. So I think that's very encouraging and something to not lose sight of. But back to the conversation of this film, A Long, Long Night. I want to know or long time. My bad. I want to know, Eric, your preparation. How did you prepare for this film?
For long time.
Long time, yes.
As a director, or as an actor, or
That's
both?
right.
Like,
Yeah, you wrote it, you directed it, and you acted in it, correct?
I did many things, my friend. This
You
is
did many
true.
things. Okay, that's what I love. I love those kinds of filmmakers. Wear all the hats. I guess yeah. Break down, go through each hat, if you will, and kind of just give us some your perspective. Like, what was your experience like for each one? How did you come up with the story?
Well, I guess of long time.
Yes.
I guess the story of long time sort of came from. I couldn't help but, one day I was sort of my grandfather was in the war. Um, and one day we have a bunch of his memorabilia from his family who was in the war. And one day I was going through the memorabilia, um, and I was thinking about what happened when he came home from the war, you know, and that readjustment period. And then my grandfather had a brother who also died in the war, right? And so I was really thinking about like what did the brother go through, and then what did he go through when he returned, and how do those things compare and contrast, and like what, you know how are those two, how can I thematically, like, what did the brother carry home from the war that the one brother passed away, and how are those stories different and similar, and that was sort of the basis of the story, right? It's sort of thinking about that, and that sort of led me down this path about returning home from war, and then the story I ended up telling, right?
Right.
um
So it was coming from a place that you that was close to you. It was coming from someone that clearly inspired you, and you wanted to learn more about from that era.
I exactly, but it's not a true story in any way. It's
Mm,
just it's I took that road that inspired me, and then wrote sort of my own story based off of some of the themes that I thought might have been applicable for that.
mhm.
And so I guess in the preparation for playing Vince, from an acting standpoint, it was a lot about, Vince is traumatized and has PTSD and coming back from the war. So it was like I was going to like the veterans halls, when we were looking. um I would go to the veterans halls and I'd sit there for a long time. I'd sort of talk with them. I'd look through all the photos and all that, right? And a lot of the prep for that film was not only was the dieting to lose the weight, because every time I went to one of these places, I'd look at the photos on the wall, and they have this sort of shallow, like hungry look in their eyes, like they've been starved of life. And I can't starve myself of life, but I can starve myself of food. So that's
Right.
something that I figured I might as well do.
That's
um
good.
so yeah, so that,
That's what we call
and it was just
creativity.
exactly, and it was just about sort of trying to, the character that I play is like a vehicle for the story. It's kind of like the driver in Drive. It's his, like, he's walking you through the story and introducing you to all these other people, and he is the sort of the heart of the story in a way, right?
Absolutely.
um yeah, and I guess that like helped me direct Alex in a sense as well, because Alex's character is totally different from my character. He's the polar opposite in a sense, right?
Right.
But they sort of have this brothership from when they were like in the war. And that's something that Alex and I sort of shared, and why he was perfect for the role, because underneath all the acting and all the characterization, we still had this camaraderie that we've had for years.
Of
So
course.
that was why he was perfect for that part, and why we put him in that part. And when we got there, we had the camaraderie already. It was just about
Yeah.
honing in the details about the specific
Capturing it.
characters that we were playing. Yeah.
Capturing, yeah, that moment. And I can see it right now, like on this Zoom call, right? Like this podcast episode. You guys have that chemistry. You've grown up, known each other a long time, and you capitalized on that. I think those are the best films, where they're just they pick the ones that suit the character, but what's most believable. We're not just going to hire a random person. We're going to hire someone that, hey, if you could pull this off. And looking at the shot, because just followed you on Instagram, Alex. Um, I bought it. I see you in that era. Like, while talking to you now, right? Obviously, I don't know much about you, but when I saw you in that light, it completely changed your look and transformed
Yeah.
you, and kind of thrown you back into that era. And I'm sure you're getting tons of compliments for that believability, that authenticity, right? And credit to the director for, being responsible for, I guess, that casting? Or did you hire yourself, Alex?
I don't. I guess. I don't know. I can't. No comment.
No comment. No, no pressure. No
I don't know.
pressure.
He's
But I
lucky.
want
I
to.
wrote the part for him,
Oh,
so he had no competition. So it was.
oh, there you go. There you go. That's what a good friend does.
He
I
did
love
some
it.
casting for some of the other parts, but that part was always for Alex. It's a very specific part, and it was written for him. So it was great, you know.
That's great.
So
That's perfect, man. And that's, I think those are the best projects, right? When you hear something's written for you and you can't see it any other way, you just know how the mannerisms, how they move, how they talk. And again, you said you've captured that chemistry beautifully. So just by describing it, looking forward to seeing that dynamic on screen. I want to know from a directing perspective, Eric, what films were you inspired by, or other forms of media that you brought to this project that inspired you?
can you repeat the question? Sorry, you.
Yeah, cut out. Yeah, I thought maybe like it was my
Oh,
internet,
no worries.
but
No. So it's questions for Eric. I want to know, as a director, what kind of films or forms of media did you take into this project that inspired you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there was a ton of inspirations, specifically for the film. I guess like there's all kinds of there's character inspirations and then story inspirations,
Right.
But I mean, we were looking at a lot of like we were looking at there was a lot of paintings we were looking at and old photos from the 1940s. And it was for us specifically, it was really about trying to rebuild the sort of that world, right? And how could we sort of use one room, in a sense, there's three locations, but one room which is a primary location,
Right.
and how can we build out that world, completely in that one room, right? So we were looking at a lot of photos of dancers, and people were returning home and dancing after the war, and old footage of dancing, and then I guess specifically in reference to films that we were looking at in regards to like contextually for for style, there's several scenes in the film that sort of are indicative of like some of the scenes in like there's a little element of Dunkirk in the film, like a small piece of Dunkirk, and we were looking at a lot of sort of psychological pieces as well, and really trying to figure out the psychology of the characters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one thing I enjoyed about so far what I've seen is I'm glad you mentioned the Dunkirk aspect, because that's why I enjoyed Dunkirk, because the characters are young and it's seen through their eyes. And Christopher Nolan was very adamant on the fact that he needed to hire actors that were in their 20s. It needed to be believable to the audience that they were that young going into war. And is that essentially what you were going for? Like, focusing on character, because you could talk about PTSD, but you can also do a story where a man's in a retirement home, maybe reflecting on his life. So is that something you agree with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the story is so specific, but we really wanted to focus on what happens right when they return, That was the story that was interesting to me.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. It's a different perspective, and it's something that you have to watch to get a sense of what you were going for in your vision.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you more. I'm trying so hard.
Yeah,
to
no.
around what I can say, what I
Listen,
can't say.
yeah. That just goes to show my questions are pressing. They're inquisitive.
Great, dude. Keep it up. I don't know what I can.
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard to not spoil anything, or like I'm tiptoeing around all kinds of stuff. Like I'm like
I see you guys like looking at each other like, wait, can I say that? Well, I'm not saying that. Would you just say?
I don't know.
Eric's like,
I don't know what I'm allowed.
We all signed our lives away with this movie, man, and there's been minimal press so far because we have a big release coming. So we're
nice.
This is you sort of getting the inside scoop in a sense. So it's fun,
I love it. Yeah, and I love that you guys are prioritizing giving the audience an insight on this film. But I think we got a good sense of the film and really what they're all about. Both films, Man versus Food and Long Long Time. I think I'm the kind of guy where I wouldn't want my film to be spoiled either, or get talk too much about it because it ruins the experience for the viewer, right? So, um, very cool stuff, guys. I love what I'm hearing. I want to get it back to Alex. For Alex, I want to know, what did you learn from this experience making a film, and how did it make you grow as an actor? Both these films.
Well, I guess with Long Long Time, I like really opened my eyes to like putting myself and studying to become a character that I've never, really experienced something like, world wars and military things like that. So a lot of research had to be put. Like I really had to research like different, mental illnesses, like I said, right, and
Right.
really opened my eyes to just how, I don't know if I can even say like I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but like the whole like like process, but like just overall, like I guess like everybody on set kind of working together. Everybody had like their own certain, I guess, a fit, had their own like, how do you say it, like role, I guess.
Role
I
to
don't know.
play.
It's just it's really,
It's
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of difficult to
exactly.
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody had a role to play, and yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what I. It is, yeah, a bit of a difficult question to like to pick. The difference like with like Man versus Food was like just the characters, I guess, were complete opposite, which is what I had to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. And like
Yeah.
this, the scale too, right,
What's
Alex? Like
that?
Man versus Food was small,
Yeah,
right? And then when we got to Long Long Time, like you were saying, just there's probably 4 or 5 times the amount of people who worked on Long Long Time just on the set that worked on Man versus
yeah,
Food, right?
yeah. It was way different environment, and I guess it was kind of like an eye opener, I guess. Yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah, it's I wanted to know, obviously you guys can't talk much about it, but I was just curious, like, are there new things you've learned about as an actor, like with your craft? Kind of, have you improved certain weaknesses, or have you become more confident in certain areas because
I
of these
think,
films?
yeah, I guess like one of my weaknesses was kind of like remembering the lines, and I guess with Long Long Time, I really had to like step it up, and there was no lines in Man versus Food. Obviously, it was kind of just like exaggerated facial expressions, and so
Right.
with Long Long Time, I really had to step it up and remember the lines, and try hard to sell the performance, because with Man
Nice.
versus Food, it's like you it's not that hard to sell like facial expressions, it's disgust and whatever. But I guess with when you're speaking and really putting yourself in that character, you got to really try hard to sell the performance. That's what I kind of got out of it, what I learned.
Well, one thing I want to mention is Alfred Hitchcock, right? Legend. He said, if you really want to strengthen yourself as a filmmaker, try telling a story without the use of dialogue. And that goes for an actor as well. When I was first starting out, all my films, because of budgetary reasons, and I had no idea what I was doing with sound, but I am proud of those experiences because I think it helped me grow as a filmmaker, basically selling a story to an audience where there's no words. It's just body language, music, and scenery. So I think that's something that when I hear you talking about Man versus Food, I'm excited because I don't people take it for granted, that art form that you can sell with your facial expression, that inner dialogue, how talented you need to be to convey a story all through visuals. So I'd like to ask Eric, what are the actors? Sorry, what are the actors? What are the things you will take from this experience as a director on your next film project, from Man versus Food, from Long Long Time? How the things you've learned? What are you going to bring to the next project you have in mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because that question sort of is applicable in many ways, in the sense that like I brought a lot of things from Man versus Food into Long Long Time. I learned a lot on Man versus Food, and that spiraled over into Long Long Time, which is then going to spiral over into the next one. So,
Any new
I mean,
things? Any new things you've learned that you're going to take to the next project?
oh, I mean, absolutely. I think it's really important to define character before you go, like, especially as a director. A lot of the things I learned on long time, because it's such an intense story and such a like character driven story, is really like how to try and craft characters like in collaboration with an actor like Alex.
Of course.
You know, that was like the full sort of arc of that experience for me, like the learning curve. So I mean, there's all kinds of things in regards to crafting character beforehand, you know, that sort of, but the things I'm going to take to the next project is really sort of, I'm going to try and evolve that process of working with the actors beforehand, you know, and doing doing table reads with the actors and doing prep and really, you know, going that extra mile to evolve characters. So when we get there on the day, we don't have to hash out character as much as like, and we can just really sort of, you know, focus on just calming it all down and just being present in the moment, right? Because I believe like acting is about doing as much preparation as humanly possible. It's the same thing as directing. I feel as though they're both the same.
Yeah.
You know, you do as much prep as humanly possible beforehand. You know, as much prep as you possibly can. But when you get there on the day, you sort of have to let it go. You know, you have to trust that you're prepared and you have to be present in the moment, you know? You know, when acting is all about preparing that character completely and then getting there and being present with that, you know? And it's the same with
Absolutely.
being present with the moment and what's happening, not what you thought was going to happen in your head, but what's happening now on the screen and what you can do to sort of improve that moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I want to say, you know, the energy should be well balanced amongst every person, cast, crew, working on set, and it should be. I still believe that the most energy, the most care should be given to the actors because they are the front lines. They are what the audience sees initially. The actors, the camera doesn't lie. And like you just said, Eric, that preparation is so critical when dealing with actors because you can have a great story, you can have a great cinematography, editing, music, you know, directing abilities, whatever have you. But if your actors aren't selling what the story is and not making it feel real, you risk losing your audience, and that's something that no filmmaker, no storyteller wants to do. So having that transparency with your actors, making them feel included in the project is very important. One thing I wanted to mention too, bringing back to Tarantino, is something as simple as going out to dinner with your cast, and going out to dinner. Like for example, if there's a group of girls that are friends, you know, have them, if they never met before, especially in their life, go out to dinner. You know, buy them all dinner or whatever, but have them exchange stories, have them communicate, bounce ideas off each other, things they learn, because they're going to bring that chemistry to the screen and they're going to sell you that they've been friends for a very long time. Right? Is that something you guys both agree?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always stress that authenticity. I know it's very hard. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. You know, my project's nowhere near masterpieces, but I think if filmmakers like ourselves, if we always remind ourselves, we need to keep authentic to the story. We need to always respect the story. We can't help but make a good movie. As my buddy, I shouldn't say my buddy, my hero Tarantino says. But yeah, so that was, I really enjoyed having you guys on the podcast, hearing about the stories of making Man versus Food and Long Time. I know you guys can't talk about it more. And as much as the audience, you know, that are interested want to hear more about it, we understand. We've signed those documents before. We know that, things can't get spoiled like Tom Holland style, right?
Yeah.
But there's some things coming soon, so I'll keep
That's
the
great.
audience informed.
Yeah,
You know, we'll have to do another one of these at some point where more things are released, so we can go
for sure. Yeah, we you guys can discuss press and, like, you know, the release and the aftermath and kind of what you guys gone through, because I'm always curious about that. I think it's very important as filmmakers, we know how to market ourselves and we know how to market our content. This is why I have you guys on the vlogs. I have you guys on the podcast. It's very important that people know who we are and what our stories are all about and what we can contribute to the industry. So on that note, do you guys have anything else to say to the audience? Anything you guys want to mention?
Well, I mean, I've been working on some projects that I guess, am I allowed to plug that?
Plug it, dude.
Yeah.
Plug it. Yeah, I mean, I got a YouTube channel where I kind of put like my skits and like my own little like short, I guess, videos and things like that. And like one thing, like you were saying about like authenticity, I'm a sucker for like authenticity and things like that. So like my videos are when I make them, a lot of them are like 80s type of like aesthetic and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
so the way I actually like I actually put my videos on tape and then digitize them back to so like you really get that quality of like VHS and things like that. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
That's really cool, man.
we did it with, Eric was helping me out with this one. It's called like 10-minute cop, and
Okay,
it's like
cool.
it's kind of like a like an infomercial. I mean, no, it's kind of like an informational tape where these police officers, like it's a comedy skit, yeah, and they like it's these police officers that teach you how to like protect the law and things like that, and they're really goofball like cops, and like so like I like went and I bought like I could have gone to Party City and bought like a fake cheap police costume, but like I really like wanted it to look as official as I can get it to looking, so I went on some website that sold like security outfits and things like that. So I bought like a brown and two blue shirts. So like my brother's playing one of the cops and my cousin plays the other cop, and it's a really really funny, I guess. And I like really try to like make it look as authentic as I can with like the graphics and things like that. So
where can we watch it?
You can watch it on YouTube. It's Andy's Funhouse.
Andy's Funhouse. Love the name.
On YouTube. Andy's Funhouse. Same as.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely give you a subscription for sure, and looking forward to seeing more of your content. I think sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like I got some like I'm working on different things to come out and things like that. So hopefully within the next like few months I'll have more on there.
Yeah, I definitely encourage you. I definitely encourage you to do that, man. It doesn't always have to be short films. It doesn't always have to be vlogs. It's just something that speaks to you, something that you want to share with the world, and your audience will find you, right? They'll gravitate to that brand. Like just hearing how you described that film. I'm not saying that it won't do well, right? Or maybe not turn out the way you want it. But even if it didn't, the fact that you had the courage to put it out there, the fact that you spent the time to do so, you're so many steps away. You're so much ahead than the people that can't even pick up that pen and write down that idea on a piece of paper, as they say.
Exactly.
Right? So credit to you, brother. And what about you, Eric? Anything else you want to say before we end the podcast?
Thanks for having me on.
Eric's a regular. Eric knows the routine.
With everything I'm working on, I can't talk too much about it, but
no worries, man.
I'm looking forward to working with you someday.
Yeah, for sure.
And
that's something I wanted to mention. Yeah, that's something I wanted to mention, guys. Is I'm looking forward to collaborating with you both. I think you guys, obviously, I haven't seen your work entirely, like the films, but from what I've seen and what I heard so far, I know you guys are the real deal. I know you guys are authentic, and at the end of the day, you guys are just passionate about movies, and anyone that's passionate about movies is a friend of mine. And I'm looking forward to more conversations on the podcast and having you guys on and talking about our journeys and our experiences and future collaborations for sure. Definitely stoked.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Anyways, we'll talk soon. Take care.